Let's see, this computer says 9:30, but this one says 9:29. Okay. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm just confirming that you're with the Southern California Learning Community. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Lisa Fraser. I have served as the Southern California Learning Community Facilitator for the last 4 years, and I'm really excited to be with all of you today as we start our new learning community focusing on the CAPCs. And if you could go back to the prior slide, please. The CAPCs Rise, leading the strengthening families approach to rebuilding communities. So I am thrilled to tell you that today we have over 100 registrations, people who are so interested in this topic and wanting to learn and be able to grow their practice and advocacy in their respective counties. And I welcome all of you, and I'm excited to be with all of you. So my name is Lisa Fraser, and I am the Southern California Learning Communities Facilitator. And I'm today joining me is Lydia Marquez, who is the Training and Consulting Specialist for Strategies 2.0. And she's responsible for making this video production very efficient and high quality. So what I'd like to do is check in with who is in the room. So next slide, please. So what we'll do is just first review the agenda. The agenda is obviously our introductions, which we're going to do in a minute. We're going to have a wonderful overview on CAPC best practices with Lori Clark and Kathleen, Dr. K, as I call her, because it's really hard to pronounce her last name sometimes. We have an exciting parent-partner panel. We will take a break for a few minutes, and this is your opportunity to stand up and stretch, and we want to welcome you all back because we're even going to have some more exciting engagement with our parent partners from the Ventura County region. And then we'll have a little reflection on what we've learned today, and hopefully what you'll learn today will be resonating with you, and we'll hear about it through your evaluations, which I want to remind everybody it's so important for you to participate in our evaluation process so we continue to improve and learn what we do. So what I'd like to do next is to enter into the poll that we're going to do to check in and who is in the room. So this is really fun because we get to check who you're representing today and what organization you are with. And please click your answer in the PowerPoint slide that you see in front of you. And in my case, I'm going to click my answer, and then I'm going to submit. And if everybody could please do that. And then we're going to see the results of this poll on who is on this call today. We'll just give it a minute, and then we'll be able to see the results of that poll on your screen. Thank you. And we should be able to see the results in just a few seconds.
Okay, so we're going to close this in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we'll share these results.
So how cool is this? We get to see who is on the call as far as what organizations and agencies that are representing. And I am excited to see that our family serving organizations make up a majority of it, but also to see that our child welfare, public health, and behavioral health partners are with us today. As far as other, I know folks come from a variety of different entities like school systems and faith-based organizations, etc. So what we'll do is go on to the next question, because we have, so what is your role in child abuse prevention? And then we will again do the same poll, and please let us know how you see yourself in your county. So I myself will check my box and we'll submit it, and we'll give it a minute and see the results.
And we'll go, excuse me, we'll go ahead and close this in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Wow, this is exciting to see how we have a strong representation today from our family advocate sector and parent leaders. Also with our early childhood professionals as well. And of course, the supervising of programs as well as the executive leadership. To see that we have 30% from other, because the poll only allows us so many answers, indicates to me that we have folks from a variety of different agencies that are here with us, and we welcome and are excited that you're here with us today. So our final poll question is, what do you know about your county's child abuse prevention plan? So I'm going to check mine, and I will all wait for everybody else to do that as well. Oh gosh, yeah. I can't see.
All right, and we are going to close this in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Okay, this is encouraging. Knowing that we have a majority of folks that are engaged or somewhat informed of the planning process is very encouraging. And if you're not aware, you are today, because you'll hear more about that in this learning community. And if it's encouraging also to see that those who are with us are not joining in a yoga class. So we really appreciate your participation in this poll. And what we'll do is we'll move ahead and to start our program. And as we are starting our program, I want to thank those who are just joining us, and also to thank our funder. It is because of the Office of Child Abuse Prevention of California Department of Social Services that makes this learning community possible today. We appreciate their support, we appreciate their leadership, and going forward, we're going to be using the platform of this learning community to continue to be part and engaged with each other in the coming years. So the learning communities has been 4 years of cross-sector partnerships, so we can increase those partnerships as well as improving our organizational capacity to solve pressing problems. So we are grateful to have this opportunity to pause and share this on a regional level throughout Southern California. And for those who are with us who are not from Southern California, but in other parts of the state and the country, we welcome your participation in learning with us. So now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Kathleen Van Antwerp. Dr. K, as I call her, is the Director of Partnership for Safe Families and Communities of Ventura County. Like me, we are both directors of what we call the Designated Child Abuse Prevention Council of our counties. So Dr. K, I welcome you, and I am so thrilled to hear with you and Lori Clark, who's going to join you, about our child abuse prevention councils and how they are a pivotal part in developing prevention agendas in our counties.
Thank you, Lisa. And Lori will be facilitating this component, but I wanted to just jump in and Thank you so much and welcome everyone to Ventura County. We are your host for this learning community, and if we were able to be together in person, you'd be along the coast. We are a coastal community, so I'd like to invite you to think with the blue mind. Think about the ocean. If you're on the water, in the water, above the water, below the water, you have a mild meditative state of being, which helps us learn. So Ventura County welcomes you and welcomes you to the blue mind. And then I'll hand it over to Lori.
Thank you so much, Kathleen, and it's great to be with everybody today. I appreciate being able to be on the call with this learning community and talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is the structure of child abuse prevention councils that blanket our state. I'm excited to talk about that because CAPCs are the catalyst, convener, and coordinator of all countywide prevention activities throughout the state of California, and they're a part of a national model. In fact, California CAPCs were instrumental in helping to set that national model, and many of them in some of our larger cities have been around for over 50 years. But CAPCs are all about bringing people together and making prevention the new norm. So today I would like to talk to you a little bit about the CAPC Best Practices project that San Diego State University Social Policy Institute through Strategies 2.0, along with our partners at the Children's Bureau of Southern California and the CAP Center, were asked to do to sort of lift out what is it that unifies us as child abuse prevention councils, and what are those best practices that we should be paying attention to, not only so that we can have some collective action and shared understanding, common approach, but also so that our cross-sector partners, as Lisa mentioned today, many of whom are on this call, can also be clear. The CAPCs are not just a feel-good thing. They're not just about pinwheels and blue ribbon and child abuse prevention work, but really a substantive part of the leadership fabric that is making prevention the new norm, or helping that to happen. So we undertook to talk to experts in the field, both California and nationally, about who they thought was doing exemplary work. And we also went back to an earlier publication of CAPC Best Practices Guideline to identify counties that were really on the cutting edge, doing things that were new and innovative. And we regret that time only permitted us to talk to about half of the directors of CAPCs in California, but we felt like with that half, we really got a good representation, north and south, central. Each region represented large counties, small counties. And of course, from there, we lifted out, worked with our partners to figure out what's working and what should be lifted up going forward. So here's a few things that we learned. First of all, CAPCs have a very broad-based membership. You know, through the guiding regulations, they're required to have leadership from public child welfare services, from community-based organizations and family resource centers, also to involve the justice system and the courts and judicial partners, as well as have family representation. But we were pleased to find that most CAPCs not only have that, but go far beyond. We also learned something about the dedicated leadership of CAPC directors. And again, we're fortunate to have some of you on this call today and welcome your comments and perspectives as well. But we found that almost a quarter of the directors of child abuse prevention councils had been in place for 15 or more years. This says to me that they have dedicated their careers to prevention, to building up leadership within their respective county, and that almost 40% of CAPC directors had been in place less than 5 years. So I mentioned that here today on this call in particular, because that's where data can help us to really embrace a learning community. What we heard from the newer directors is they would love to tap in and hear from directors who have been in place. What did you do? How did you do it? What were the lessons learned along the way? And there's some notes there for transition as well. So as you see there on the slide, we've collected some best practices for excellence, both in sustaining CAPC, because as these leaders that have been in place for a while are beginning to think about moving on, retiring, going on to other things, there's a need for transition and sustainability. We put the result of these interviews and discussion with prevention champions throughout California into a best practices guidelines document that is soon to be released. So I hope everyone will be checking the OCAP and the strategies website for that. I think we're within weeks now of that happening. Meanwhile, I know many of you have seen the infographic, which is sort of a one-page description of the various roles of CAPC, the foundational capacity that is necessary to fulfill those roles, and examples of best practices. So again, that's going to cover structure and governance, what infrastructure could look like, giving room for various styles, not just a one-size-fits-all, and also some tips about funding and how really to tie into that. So I would also like to, next slide please, just sort of give everyone a high-level view of the WIC requirements for CAPCs. So that's the California Welfare and Institutions Code. So this is a process where federal funding comes to the state of California through the Office of Child Abuse Prevention. And the CAPCs are guided in what they must do at a minimum. So you see those represented there. At the heart of the work of CAPCs is coordination and collaboration. And those stated roles really speak to that very, very well. CAPCs are also asked to convene a public forum and increase public awareness. And we were so impressed with CAPCs as we were conducting interviews, getting to know about their practices, that almost everyone we spoke to said, you know, we love that child abuse prevention is highlighted in April, but we've got to be increasing public awareness and having the dialogue going and having efforts that are year-round and not just in one highlighted month. So in the best practices guideline, you'll see much more about that. Many CAPCs conduct training, mandated reporter training in particular. Some do that directly, others contract out. But training forms a very big role for CAPCs. So this is part of developing shared language, shared approach, getting everyone on the same page. And again, this is another example of how OCAP has supported the CAPCs very, very well through strategies trainings, through knowledge to action briefs and other kinds of tools that are available at Strategies website for a quick download and incorporation into your meetings. So they're designed in particular as a plug and play. Finally, just commenting on the last couple of roles, the dissemination of prevention information, so that again, we're reaching out very broadly and uniformly. And then finally, the other anchor of CAPCs is that they're really in place to make recommendations for improvement. So that's sort of logical that there are so many broad-based cross-sector partners. They're going to see things from different angles. And of course, the parent partners that come in are seeing what is happening within the prevention system, within other systems from their own perspective of lived experience, which is so valuable to have that parent voice really elevated and integrated in everything that we do. So now I'd like to, starting with the next slide, walk you through each of these roles just very briefly. And then I'm going to pass to Kathleen to give you a real world example of how that role is being played out and Ventura County. So the first role I'd like to talk about is Catalyst for Prevention. This really means that CAPCs are asked to be the spark to catalyze or to get folks going, get them organized, get them focused and thinking about things together. And it really requires leadership. It also requires that CAPCs are values, mission, and vision driven. That it's not just the fad of the day or the newest program or what's happening with the funding stream, but really that they hold that vision for prevention and are able to communicate that so that they can be a change influencer. Some of the best practices guidelines have to do with things like, don't wait to be invited to your county system improvement plan meeting or any other type of meeting, but take the initiative, build momentum. You bring people together or proactively reach out and see how you can be involved and how you can support the effort. And of course, that's in the context of sharing ownership and responsibility, realizing that it's all of our children and families and community that we serve from different angles in different ways. So having that overall shared responsibility, it takes leadership to keep that in the forefront so that folks are really recognizing that. CAPCs are also famous, as we said earlier, for the prevention, education, and advocacy as central best practice for their role. And it requires planning and implementation to be able to do that well. So with that sort of as an overview, Kathleen, would you tell us what that looks like on the ground in Ventura?
Absolutely. Thank you, Lori, for such clear, definitive definitions of these roles. It's exciting. So the Child Abuse Prevention Council of Ventura County took on a very critical role during COVID-19 and the pandemic, when we really needed to focus on strengthening families. We really needed to be that catalyst that Lori described. So I use the word communication in affiliation with catalyst. We really had to take the lead in communication. I want to give you 3 specific examples as to how we brought the catalyst role to life during this COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. So the first thing you see on the screen there is we connected with both our Coastal Tri-Counties CAPCs and our Office of Child Abuse Prevention and our child welfare system to talk about creating public service announcements. And we don't need to read this in totality, but if you look at this public service announcements, you can see that we are connecting to the community, we are encouraging them, we are being a catalyst to say now is the time. You can join our protection team right now. A simple action to take is to reach out to support and share resources with a struggling family. So this is one example, and these public service announcements were read on the radio over 200 times during this stay-at-home order. So it's very critical. And I think the screen right before may have shown a poster that we also work collaboratively with Child Welfare Services to create. And the CAPC came up with the motto, now more than ever, we can strengthen families together. And that was a poster we put out both in Spanish and English, and we were able to distribute it throughout the community to bring awareness and be that catalyst for action. And the third and final specific activity I want to share with regarding a catalyst role was we took on the initiative, the Child Abuse Prevention Council, to create the 5 protective factor video series. We created 1 protective factor per week over the course of 5 weeks during April, which is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And each video was only 2 minutes in duration, shot on our iPhone, put on our website, distributed through the community, and spoke specifically to 1 protective factor, what it meant, and how you could use that to keep families safe and strengthen them during this time of crises. Those are 3 specific examples for the catalyst role of the CAPC during COVID-19.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. You know, it's always so exciting to hear the detail because that's really what's behind the role. It's one thing to describe it, it's another to put it on paper, and it's quite something else to hear, well, what did that look like? What did you do to make that role happen? So let's talk about the next role briefly. The next role is convener. And this role basically means bringing partners together in a safe, neutral location. Not to a place where there's a head of the table and there's someone that's making all the decisions, but really to a place where partners all come with equal value and equal opportunity to present and contribute. So some of the foundational capacity that requires, of course, is seasoned facilitation skills to be able to organize an agenda, set up the venue, get the word out. All of that is something that we don't take for granted. It's a real skill set, and there are some good opportunities for reinforcing that. Part of convening people is also paying attention to diversity, equity, and inclusion. There was a strategies webinar last week about that very topic with respect to data. And so we tie that in here because it's something to be mindful of who we bring together and how we do that. And then finally, foundationally, it requires emotional intelligence. And we use that as a shorthand for saying someone who's a people person, who can really build relationships that are so critical, that if you're missing a member from a CAPC, you pick up the phone and say, hey, we missed you. We're not able to get all the perspective we need without you being there to participate. How are things for you? What can I do for you? So again, as you see the best practice guidelines there, again, bringing people together, setting an environment that really maximizes participation. And I've really personally been a part of that in Ventura County when I visited. And Kathleen, you and your team do that so well. It's like you walk in the room and you feel like, oh, I'm feeling welcomed. This is a place where I can be creative and productive. Lifting up parent voice and community voice, having effective working relationships, and recognizing everybody's contribution. So Kathleen, what would you add to that? What is that looking like in Ventura?
So Lori, between the convener and the next one, the coordinator, there's a lot of crossover. And when I think of convener in its action, I think of the word collaboration. It certainly hops out, and cross-sector collaboration. We put some photos together in this slide for demonstration of what Lori just described, really creating an environment, making sure that everyone who comes to the table feels comfortable, because in cross-sector roles, people may not know one another. They may be working more in silos. So it's really the role of the CAPC to convene everyone that's both a traditional and non-traditional participant in the concept of strengthening families and preventing child abuse and family violence. So in these particular slides, you'll see that we take the time to bring food. Light refreshments or food can often be donated through community businesses, local restaurants. We work very collaboratively with our business community, setting an environment that is light. It is organized. People are sitting in a U shape or a circle. We're facing one another. We're really enhancing the idea that we are all here together. We're creating a space that is safe, a space that is collaborative, and a space that everyone can be heard, coming from different roles in the community. And on this particular convening role, I want to highlight this represents our cross-sector county-wide child abuse prevention team. And why I emphasize that is that we're bringing together leaders from behavioral health, public health, education, law enforcement, just as Lori mentioned, and bringing them together to become a transdisciplinary team, not just a multidisciplinary team, but a team that transcends where they come from to come together, unite our voices. And we want to be sure that the parent voice and the community voice is also at that table. So it takes collaboration skills and communication skills to create an environment and a space that is well planned. You can bring on facilitators to help guide, like we do with Lori and Steve. You can bring people on to help guide, which is very helpful when you have all these cross-sector organizations coming together, because it's a room full of leaders, and leaders like to lead. So it's really nice when you bring on facilitators and they keep the room such that we're all communicating on the same level. So as a convener, it's important to bring cross-sector, traditional, non-traditional leaders together to create a safe environment and to make sure that everyone is heard, understood, represented, and respected.
Thank you, Kathleen. And then the final role here is coordinator. And I think that is something that probably many folks are familiar with. Just like the other two roles, there are certain skills or foundational capacities that are necessary. And in the best practice guidelines, you'll see a whole lot of tips from counties throughout California on how to complete that role effectively. But Kathleen, tell us a little bit of what that looks like in your county.
So I'll be quick due to time, but if you look at the next slide, you'll also see we create, as I do, most CAPCs do in their counties, we conduct a meeting once a month, the first Wednesday of every month, that brings together our community-based organizations. Representation of all the direct service agencies. We come together as a networking, educational resource opportunity. We create a resource table where everyone in the community brings their information. I want to emphasize we have a consistent date, a consistent time, a consistent location. When everyone comes in, we have a consistent agenda. We have ice-breaking activities. We provide light refreshments. We create an environment. We make sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak, share what their organization is doing, share events that are coming forward, and everyone leaves knowing they're part of a membership. Next month, they'll come to the same place. And during COVID-19, we had to do all of this virtually. And I will say that on a virtual platform, we had over 30 organizations that came on a regular basis and shared in the chat box and shared on the screen, and everyone articulated how connected it made them feel to the county and how important it was for their organization to have a voice and say, we are here, send your families to us, we will come to your families. And we left that meeting feeling that we did have a countywide prevention plan and that there was a space for us to come together safely, creatively, and organized. So when you talk about a coordinator, I use the word consistency and capacity building.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. And what I really love about what you're doing in Ventura is you're walking the talk of this role through communication being bi-directional. It's not just informing folks of things, but it's asking folks things and taking it back elsewhere. So thank you very much. Last slide as we're wrapping up this section here is picture to remind everybody that the best practices guidelines will soon be out. They will be available at the websites that you see there, and you have a little bit of picture of what will be included and what's there. So as I'm turning this back to Lisa, I just want to say that I'm so excited to hear from parent partners and also from community providers. So as we go through the remainder of the morning, they're probably not going to call out, here's where I'm a catalyst, here's where I'm a convener, here's where I'm coordinating things. But I encourage and invite each of you to look for how you're seeing those roles played out in what we hear going forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Kathleen, for this quick download on how Child Abuse Prevention Councils function in a best practice model. I know that there is one question here that is for Kathleen. So do you meet separately as a board from the convening that you just shared with us?
So yes, actually our board president is on this event, and she put in the chat box to mention our board of directors does meet on a monthly basis as well. I, as the executive director, do meet with our board of directors regularly to communicate what the CAPC is doing, our goals, our visions, our strategic plan. The convening we do in the community is with a community-based group, so it's representation of all the different organizations that do direct service in our community. And then the other convening that we shared today has to do with our cross-sector child abuse prevention team that is in the developmental stages. We're quite far along, but those are kind of three different things that we do. From our community-based meeting, that's the same day and time every single month, 10 times a year. We go dark in July and January. and that is to bring everyone's voice to the table. And when Lori mentioned bi-directional, that's the space where the CAPC listens to direct service providers, family members, and other organizations and brings that information back to the county-wide child abuse prevention team, which is called Essentials for Childhood Ventura County. And then our board of directors is another entity that convenes on a monthly basis and guides the work of the Child Abuse Prevention Council. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, it does. And because of our time, we are going to need to move on to our parent panel. And this is where I'm going to hand it off to you, Dr. K, to introduce your parents here today. And I want to thank each parent for being part of our special Zoom meeting here. And we look forward to hearing what you have to share with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa. So as we mentioned earlier, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the stay-at-home orders created new challenges for our families, specifically the implementation of the 5 protective factors that we use to strengthen families. In Ventura County, we quickly realized that our parent leaders played a critical role in connecting with families and helping them to stay safe and to stay strong and connected during this time. So our parent leaders and our parent voice was leading the way with innovative approaches to outreach. So why we wanted to highlight the parent leaders today in this learning community was to listen to the voices of our parent leaders because they are truly parent experts. So we together came up with questions we thought could help the audience really understand what is a parent leader, what is the role of a parent leader, and some specific examples of the work that they do and how they do that so beautifully. So the first question we have is slated for Leah, but Leah, are you there? Can you turn your camera on? I don't hear or see her, although I know she checked in earlier. So, okay. I don't know what happened with Leah, so we'll come back. She may hop on. Manny or Janelle, are you ready to share with us a little definition of what a parent leader is?
Can you hear me, Kathleen?
Ah, there's Leah. We can hear you now. Can everyone?
Okay. I don't know if you can see me. I don't know why my screen share isn't working, but I'm going to give you a definition of parent leadership here. I have it for you. Parent leadership occurs when parents take responsibility for their problems, develop their own solutions, and serve as role models for other parents. When parents are able to do that, they can make long-term positive changes in their lives by exploring their feelings and identifying their options and acting on their decisions. So yeah, a parent leader is someone who's able to take the lead in their family and able to do those things.
Excellent. Thank you, Leah. I appreciate that. Hopefully your camera will work because we'd love to see your beautiful face join us. So the next question we have for our parent panel, if we can go to the next slide. How does lived experience provide both a level of expertise and a level of vulnerability in the parent leader position? So Janelle, would you like to share with us?
Yes, of course. Good morning, everybody. So I feel like lived experience provides a level of expertise because I've endured the pain and also overcome those obstacles. Now, vulnerability, that comes from the empathy that I'm able to give to my clients and show to my clients, because again, I've been there, I've struggled, and I've prevailed. Also, I'm really able to mirror what it looks like to be resilient. I truly do feel like this can't completely be learned by just textbook, even though you can learn many things, but with lived experience, it's what brings true understanding.
Wow, Janelle, there were so many profound concepts that you shared. And I love the concept of empathy, true empathy, vulnerability, because you've been in a position where you as a parent may have had challenges or struggles, but when you've overcome them and shown resilience, it's an opportunity for you to lead by example, to really show other parents and give them hope. And as Leah described and Janelle just responded to, Parent leaders are individuals who step up in the community to say, I am here to stand beside you and walk with you through the process and let you know on the other end you're going to be okay and your family will be safe again. So it's really a beautiful opportunity for individuals with lived experience and expertise. As Janelle said, you can't read this in a textbook. It's really an opportunity to say, I know how you feel, I see you, I hear you, and I am going to stand beside you and help you. Really great. Thank you, Janelle. I appreciate that. Can we see the next question? So I believe, Leah, now that we can see you, welcome, and hear your voice. This next question asks about the idea, do you feel that you are viewed with a professional lens when working with agencies? I think you're muted, Leah. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Oh, okay. So as far as professional lens go, we're professional in our leadership as in our family. So we don't come to, and you don't want us at your table with your bias. You want us as who we are, because we're not, you don't want us to be objective. You want us to be there bringing our own authentic experiences to your tables. So as a professional, when I started to ask questions and begin to explore what's at the table and how I've been a recipient of services and how that happened, that usually changes the whole focus from professional to expert, because I'm an expert at being what I've been. I'm not a quote unquote professional in your sense of the word. So I'm a little bit concerned about, you trying to make me into a professional clone. I'm not that. I'm a professional parent. I'm a parent and I receive services and I am the lead at my family at that table. So yeah, the being viewed in that capacity is overrated, in my opinion.
I love that perspective, Leah, and it brings out two sides to this question. Some of the parent leaders and parent partners that we work with has said a struggle can happen when you show up to a meeting and maybe not all of the service providers or organizations in the community understand the role of the parent leader. And sometimes they may still look at you and think, well, you're a client or you were a client or you've had services. So they don't always understand that you're coming to this meeting in this critical role to really share, like you just explained, you're a professional parent and you have done a very great job of getting through any of the obstacles that life has put before you. So I love how you brought that new perception to this question, that it's overrated. You don't need to be seen as an expert or a professional from the eyes of the organization, but coming to the table being heard and your voice being respected as someone who's bringing wisdom and knowledge. And
Absolutely.
I think that's what a lot of parent leaders have said. We want to be seen and heard with our wisdom and our knowledge and what it contributes to helping families and strengthening them. Bringing these 5 protective factors. You guys are concrete support in times of need, and you do demonstrate parental resilience. So thank you, Leah. That's a great response. We have another question. Next slide. I think this can be open, obviously, to all of you. I know, Janelle, we talked about you sharing one, and I'm sure, Manny, you have some. I know you all have some, but can you share a specific success story from the work you did with your families during the challenges of COVID-19?
Is it okay if I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, so when I hear this question be asked, Kathleen, so many thoughts come to my mind. I truly do feel like we have success stories with every single one of our clients, mainly to do with the emotional support that we give to them. But one particular case does come to mind. I was working with a man, a father. When COVID came around, to be quite frank, he was on thin ice. Now, when COVID caused so many businesses and services to come to a halt, meaning they were on pause and they weren't able to, provide services for many people, seeing he wasn't engaged with many of these services, it really hurt him on his reunification plan. Now, I feel like being his parent leader, I was able to listen to him and truly give him the feeling of being supported and being heard, which then gave him self-worth and really taught him to become more of an advocate for himself. Now, with that said, he was then able to start talking with more people, like his support network, start saying, hey, I need this, I need that, I'm gonna fail. My time is still ticking when it comes to reunification, but my services are almost stopped, because he wasn't that engaged and he wasn't involved in the services like he should be. Now he was able to start advocating for himself, get himself a laptop, actually through another provider that works with kids and families together, was able to supply him with a laptop, get him Zoom going, get his visit started. And I truly do feel this specific success story comes because he was able to now start advocating for himself. This week, he had his very first in-person visit because he was able to start these visits during Zoom after he got the laptop, and he's on a firm foundation to reunification again. And I'm just so excited for it.
Wow. That's, Janelle, that's such an uplifting story and so very real, because I know I speak with my parent leader friends and colleagues all the time. And I know one of the things that you've had to do was spend a lot of time connecting via phone and spending a lot of your time to let them feel that you're not out there, you're not alone, we're here. And as you said, he may not have had access to the internet or to Zoom meetings or to his resources, but through you as a parent leader, being able to say, I'm right here, I'm one phone call away, let's keep it going, let's move it forward, let's keep that reunification plan on track. That's just an amazing story. Thank you, Janelle. And I want everyone to understand that these individuals with me work so diligently and each carry a large caseload in different capacities. Leah, you do some trainings. I know Janelle and Manny, they carry caseloads and they work side by side with families that are in the system. And they may have 10 cases or 10 families at a time, 10 partners at a time, in which they're on a daily reaching out and making sure that we're not falling backwards, that we're moving forward. And so that's just an excellent example, Janelle. I appreciate that. Manny, was there anything you wanted to add before we move to another question?
Of course. I too have a similar case as Janelle. She described it very, very honestly, kind of perfect. I also had a dad who had a very difficult time engaging. Actually, I started working with him prior to COVID-19, and he was not willing to work with anyone. Was really having a difficult time willing to engage in any type of services. But just being there, listening to him, coming from a place, identifying with him, sharing my experience and my hope, I think that makes a world of a difference, especially for dads who feel kind of left out at times when it comes down to CFS. So and now he's doing great. He's getting visits. He was willing to engage. I mean, I had to just walk side by side with him and kind of just keep giving him that hope, and sharing my story gave him that that willingness to just start doing his services. And now he's fully engaged, doing everything he has to do. And every call that I get is something positive rather than a complaint or something negative as before.
Wow, that's an excellent, excellent feeling. And I know in talking to all of you during this time frame, you really had to dig deep with these families and keep them going. And you did that as a parent partner and a parent leader. So those are phenomenal stories. Leah, before I move on, is there anything you wanted to share?
Well, yeah, working with families during time of stress is really important. When we're partnering and out there in the trenches with families, for me in the past, it's been some years since I've been a parent partner or parent leader with families, but it's very important for them to see you role model how to get through what it is they're going through. And so that's, as a role model, that's a big deal, especially having been there and done that. That really does, it helps them to see that they may also be able to do what you did. I can't hear you, Kathleen.
No, I'm just listening to you, Leah. I'm listening. I'm probably just cheering you on as you speak. Excellent. Well, thank you all three for that. We're going to move to the next slide. So I have heard from parent leaders that we are more than a parent voice at the table. We are an essential part of the team. We need to be respected and made to feel safe. And I'm going to just lead in with this because I've sat down with so many parent partners and parent leaders over the course of the last few years. And what it means to be respected and feel safe is that when parent leaders come into this position, they're coming from a place of lived experience. And so there can be emotion. There can be the feeling of re-traumatization or living through something again. And so we have to be very mindful of the role that parent partners are taking on. And we have to make sure that they are feeling safe in the position that they're doing. So how can agency leaders and staff create meaningful relationships with parent leaders and create a space where you feel safe? Because we talk about trauma-informed practice and trauma-informed care, but parent leaders are coming from life experiences that may have involved trauma, and they're helping other families through trauma. And so helping trauma can create another feeling of trauma, and we don't want that. We need to keep everybody feeling strengthened. So Leah, did you want to start? Manny and Janelle, did you want to add in?
Well, I'll go ahead and plug in here because, you know, what you've done with the parents has been amazing, and providing that concrete support, particularly, and letting them know what's expected, what's going to happen next, just like we do with the children when they're coming back to our care. They need to know what's going to happen, when is it going to happen, how it's going to happen, what it's going to look like. So then you have and also building the resilience for the parents too. The building our resilience and helping us get through that, helping to guide us through, has been amazing. And that work that you've done with us has been outstanding, Kathleen. And and you're our champion. I mean, I'm sure these other guys can agree that you've been like there for us in a way that we feel safe and we feel nurtured and protected throughout the processes of dealing with, you know, families, and even this time frame that we're in right now, this COVID stuff.
Thank you, Leah. And Manny and Janelle, if you want to hop in, I'm going to add what we do so that the participants understand is we have a program, Manny, Janelle, Leah, and the other parent leaders, where my role is to come in and provide the parent leaders with the 5 protective factors so that they can go out in the community and provide the 5 protective factors to the families. So we're creating this sense of safety and support and resource and training and concrete support in times of need and social connection so that these individuals go out in the world because they're critical to the work that we're doing in our communities, critical boots on the ground, building trust, building resiliency. And so that's the work Leah's talking about that we're doing in Ventura County. We're putting the 5 protective factors around our parent leaders. Janelle and Manny, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel that it is really important for us to get that support, and I really appreciate Dr. Kathleen. It is very emotional. There's been times where like I feel like I can't do this because it triggers me so bad, but having that support from professionals like yourself, and also having Leah and Janelle and the other parent leaders to talk to, you know, it's been, sometimes it does get hard being at really tough CFTs or meetings where all this trauma comes up. I mean, you know, me being a male single dad of 3 boys, it just brings me back to that a really dark place where I used to be at, and just having that feeling safe and being able to get that self-care and speak about it and let it out is truly really important for me.
Thank you, Manny. And Manny used a really critical word, self-care. And I think since I began working so diligently with all of the parent leaders, that comes forth a lot. You know, we really need self-care because we're going into difficult situations. I thank all of you in this moment for trusting to share that there is a lot of vulnerability and there is a lot of emotion that comes up. And as Manny said, as a father, he gives the example of his own children. So when he's helping a family that may be in crisis, it brings things up that he needs to remember parental resilience all the time. He said that's his biggest thing that motivates him every day. So I appreciate the honesty because we really want organizations and others on this call to understand this role is so critical, but this role has to be understood. This role has to be handled with care, and this role has to be used in a way that will help everyone stay strong. Janelle, before we move to the next question, is there anything you want to say on that, or you're good?
Absolutely. If it's okay, I love to talk about this. Maybe I'm going to answer this a little differently than the other parent leaders on the panel today. But when I read this, how can agency leaders, you know, create relationships with parent leaders? I would really like to talk about how keeping us in the loop and keeping us just as part of the team as anybody else. For example, I have a couple social workers that I work with on our reunification cases that constantly talk to me and they lean on me. The fact of it is we're probably like 80% more in contact with our clients than they are with a social worker. I feel like most clients only give social workers like a polished view of what their month looks like, or they only have excellence to show them. We're the ones who actually get the dirty. We're the ones who get their emotional breakdowns. We're the ones who truly understand what their stress looks like and what their life looks like. So when a social worker or an agency leader turns to us and say, hey, I can see something's going on with this client, what do you feel? I feel that we are really, really able to give more of an understanding of what's going on, because we talk to them day in and day out so much more. So to answer your question, if these agency leaders can look at us just as powerful as anybody else as the team, I believe that we will have meaningful relationships. And once they start to talk to us more and engage with us, they're going to see that we have a lot to bring to the table, maybe even more than them. Like I said, I feel like clients just show many social workers or officials a polished view of them.
Wow, powerful, Janelle. And in the description that you just shared, it highlights the word partner. You're a parent partner, right? So they see you as a partner, they view you as a partner, therefore their communication with you, like you say, can be very real and very authentic, which is what we need to help families overcome any obstacles that they're going through. But you really highlighted parent partner in your answer, and I love that. And partnership across the board. So we have about one more question coming up on the screen for our parent leader team. And I'm going to read the question. And Manny, this was something you and I had a really educational and passionate conversation about with the group one day. As parent leaders, you see the feelings and emotions that arise from families due to differences in education levels, language barriers, culture. In each case must be customized, so these challenges do not become barriers to success. So your insight on this topic, Manny, the day that we spoke about it, was really educational. You really brought up the fact that we can't walk into every family's house or every family's meeting and think everybody's on the same level understanding what we're asking of them or what we're presenting to them as a case plan, because they come from different cultures or educational levels. So what is your insight on this topic, Manny?
Yeah, this is a really interesting topic for me, because like you mentioned, Dr. Kathleen, I've had clients who don't speak English, can't read or write, to clients who've had college degrees. So, I mean, you get all sorts of clients, and I feel like a lot of the times it's the same as expected from everyone. So, for us as parent partners, it's really important to meet each one of our clients where they're at. So, and a lot of our clients are truly ashamed of where they're at and truly ashamed of, their language barriers and their educational levels, and they won't tell you they can't read or write unless you have them filling out paperwork and then they can't sign, or so it's this is something I'm really passionate about, and especially with our coming from a Hispanic um, background and helping a community and speaking Spanish. Um, Walking into these houses where these families are undocumented and terrified, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna lose my kids? Like, they have no idea of what's going on, and giving them a sense of hope. Like, you're okay. Let's work through this, and it's okay if you don't speak English. It's okay if you can't read or write. We're gonna find these resources in our community that they have no idea that are out there. And they see it. They get a sack this big from court, and they have no idea what's going on. It's very scary. So yeah, for me, it's from like my insight in this is and I know our county does a lot of training for our social workers, and but still, I mean, they have a job to do, and so do we. So I feel like it's really important for parent partners to dive in and meet our clients where they're at, and help our social workers and community understand where they are at. So I'm a really big advocate for our clients, and kind of like just as simple as like, hey, they can't read or write. Some of the clients can't text, they can't call, they don't know how to leave a voicemail. I've had clients that don't know how to leave a voicemail. So imagine how difficult and scary it is for someone who has to contact the service provider who does not know how to leave a voicemail. So yeah, that's kind of my insight on this.
Manny, you summed it up. The whole time you were talking, what kept going, meet them where they are, and bring them forward with you. And instead of, running ahead of them, meet them where they are. And at the end, you kept saying, we just need to meet the families where they are. We need to be parent partners who walk into the space and say, I see you, I hear you, I know where you are. So you summed it up exactly beautifully. I wanted to check in, being as this was our last question and we have just a few minutes left on our agenda time frame. Lisa, I'm not manning a chat box. I wondered if there were any questions or anything that the group could answer that I'm not seeing. Did anything pop up in the chat box?
Not that I see at this moment.
Okay, excellent. So what we're going to do as we sum this up is we're going to thank our panel today. I want to recognize that you do a lot of these panels for different organizations and agencies, and I want everyone on the call to know that is part of your role and responsibility as well, and you do it so willingly. You're always willing to come forward and say, how can we share who we are? How can we share what we're doing? The objective of bringing you to this presentation today was to lift the parent partner, parent leader role, because during COVID-19, you were the heroes. You did so many innovative, creative ways to stay in touch. You kept people on track when it was a time where everybody was falling off track. Everybody, every family, everyone was challenged. It was a very challenging time. And you, to me, stepped forward as heroes during this pandemic. And the one thing I wanted everyone to understand was the brilliance behind the work that you do, the mindfulness behind the work that you do, and the gratitude that we have for partnering with you as the Child Abuse Prevention Council. The work you do makes a difference directly in the lives of children and families, and your objective has always been strengthening families. And for that, we're so appreciative. And I know that this is the end, and I'll let you each have your own sign off, but I do want to make sure we all say Happy Father's Day to Manny, because that's coming up this Sunday. And we know those children are the world to you, and you're a phenomenal father. So we want to celebrate you. Before we go, I just want to offer, did you all want to have your own signing off?
Janelle, go ahead.
Thank you guys for being here today and listening to us and our parent partner roles. We do put our every piece of sweat into this job because we know that we're helping mold these people into a stronger, better future for us.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I just wanted to say again as well, thank you very much for allowing us to come and have this moment to talk to you about how to strengthen our community and strengthen our families, and how that's been my dedication work for about 20 years now. And I want to thank you guys, and especially the parent leaders for being available for this kind of venue and all the work that we've all done. Thank you guys. Congratulations and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Peace.
Yeah, I also want to say thank you for your time and giving us the opportunity to speak on this panel and for you guys to take the time to hear us out and, you know, and so you guys understand our passion and, you know, how much how much we dedicate to our families. We're so passionate about this, and just like Janelle said, we want to mold these families into you know something greater than.
Thank you, everybody. This is Lisa Fraser, and I appreciate the time that we have with you all to learn. We're going to enter into a break. This will be a 5-minute break. I encourage our audience to please stretch, get up, use
Thanks,
the
ma'am.
restroom. But we will be back here in 5 minutes. And before we get off, I want to make sure that we see in the chat box, we do have a question here about how are you providing families technology training support, especially for our Spanish population? So Kathleen, we could maybe answer that briefly when we get back on the call, and we'll take a break. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're going to move on to the other part of our agenda, which will be spending time with our agency partner panel. And before we do, Kathleen, I know that there was a question in the chat box about what kind of resources you're providing to the parent partners. Could you please just do the 1-minute version of that for me?
Absolutely, Lisa. So what we've been doing with the parent partners as far as technology is concerned is that we're meeting with them on a regular basis and identifying what the needs are in the community that they're familiar with. And then we collaboratively brainstorm on how to get those resources to those families, whether it be internet, iPad, computers, or providing them resources in the community where they can go and use shared technology space. So it's really been collaboration, communication to make sure that the families who come forward or the parent leaders identify, we then work on problem solving for them as an individual family.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to introduce our panel, and I'm going to take my camera off so the other panel partners can put their cameras on. And as I do that, I welcome Salita Dabrowski. Perfect. And Caitlin Berenger and Cynthia Salas to be part of our agency partner panel. As we prepare for our time with you all, I would like you to please introduce yourselves and lead off with the role that you share on your Ventura County Child Abuse Prevention Council. So Salita, I'm going to let you start off.
Great. Good morning, everybody. It's nice to be here. So my name is Salita Dabrowski. I'm the Children's Medical Services Administrator for Ventura County Public Health. And I also have the honor of being the board president for our Child Abuse Prevention Council here in Ventura County. I've actually been working with Kathleen for the last couple of years. Feels like we're old friends. We've been working so closely together. So I've had the honor of being in that role for the last couple of years, but I've actually been on the Child Abuse Prevention Council board since 2007. So I've been part of this for a really long time. My passion since really being in nursing even has been child abuse prevention, working to strengthen families through a myriad of different ways. I've been a home visitor, I've been a supervisor, manager, now an administrator, and always looking at how I can infuse the idea of strengthening families into whatever role I'm serving. So thank you.
Perfect. And I've had the honor and privilege of knowing Salita for a while myself, and it's so great to have you still staying on in this work. So appreciate your passion and your dedication. Caitlin, we'd love to have you introduce yourself and what is your role with the Ventura County CAPC?
Great. Hi, I'm Caitlin Berenger. I'm a development manager with Kids and Families Together. Our founder, David Freelander, actually sits on the board with Child Abuse Prevention Council. You just heard from 3 of our wonderful parent leaders with Kids and Families Together, and we are involved in the Ventura County Strengthening Families Plan. So that's our role.
Thank you, Caitlin. And please give a big shout out to David for me. It's been a very long time since I've seen him in person, but he, in my early launch of being a Child Abuse Prevention Council director, he was one of the first people I met. And it's good to hear he's still in the game. So Cynthia, we are so excited to have you here, and you have the longest title of all the folks at this group.
So, my name is Cynthia Salas. I am the Equity Service Manager. I'll just do the condensed version of my title. My role is within Ventura County Behavioral Health. My role is to ensure that our families receive culturally competent as well as appropriate services to meet the needs of their needs within our department. I'm really excited to be here today. This is my first time participating at CAPC, and I'm very excited to be here today. I know my department has different representations in this group, but today as Equity Service Manager, I'm happy to be here and talk about what role my programs within my office play during COVID-19. Thank you.
And thank you. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through a series of questions, and I'm going to kick it off first with the next slide. So we're going to start with you, Cynthia.
Of course.
We're going to go the other way. So I would like you to give an example of how you have partnered differently within the community in response to the COVID-19 health crisis.
Absolutely. Well, well, as a manager within my office, the Office of Health Equity, we have a program called Logrando Bienestar, Achieving Wellbeing. That program specifically targets the Latino community, also including our indigenous communities from Southern Mexico, the Mixteco, Zapoteco, Purechepa community, to be specific, within our regions. As a manager, I decided to take the outreach approach and be boots on the ground and connect with the school districts first, knowing that they directly impact our communities that we serve as a whole. And knowing that they needed to have a plan in place allowed me to reach out to them prior to that and remind them that our services were here to support families, that we wanted to let them know that they had support, that we weren't going to wait for them to reach out to us, but that we were actively listening and waiting for them at all levels. So after about a week, I reached out again to all the individual school superintendents, but also through the Ventura County of Education, reached out to them, and they also supported my efforts in getting information out to principals and superintendents. As you can imagine, the level of emails that they would be receiving from individuals, I wanted them to know that I was here and available. The next thing that we did is we teamed up with the county, the CEO's office, the PIO's office, to make sure that they understood the communities that they needed to reach out to. And that's when that's why I don't have a voice, honestly. I lost my voice from all the community outreach speaking. Going directly to school sites to deliver information about mental health services, resources, and making our community aware of COVID-19 and prevention practices. Because many times we tend to look at things from a lens of how we experience things. Many of the families that we're working on reaching do not speak Spanish. They don't read and write. They don't have access to internet or television. Those things for many families have now become a luxury, given that a lot of families have lost their jobs. Our essential frontline workers that are our farm community, many of them have children that they have left at home, given that they have to go to work and provide for their families. So being aware of these things, not only as from the perspective of like, we know these things are out there, but being proactive. We've also partnered up with a lot of our community-based organizations, including our advocacy groups out in the community that specifically engage with the families on a daily basis. Also going to food distribution sites to promote programs, but also have the opportunity to sit there and talk to families one-on-one when needed. Like I said, many of our families don't have the resources available that they need to be in contact with our services. Some of them don't even have something as basic as a telephone number. So working with communities around the periphery where these families work is essential, as families can go to those sites, particularly now as things are opening, or certain agencies were providing families with phone cards so they could have a temporary phone so they could access services. So that's a small example of some of the things. Currently, I'm still partnering. I'm still part of a lot of community meetings where we're inviting not just community leaders, but also the families that directly impacted. Sometimes it's great to hear leadership in the community, those that have the background, but we really want to directly speak to those that are directly impacted. I was happy to see that you have a parent group panel. Myself, specifically in our program, we reach out to a lot of our parent groups, our Latino parent group, our Mixteco parent groups, as well as religion-based organizations. As we know, these are also safe places that our community reaches out for information. So we've taken a real boots on the ground field approach, not waiting for individuals to come to us for resources. And I know during the beginning of COVID-19, it was very difficult for a lot of agencies to kind of figure out what you were doing. But if you, excuse me, but if you are really aware what disparities existed prior to COVID-19 and you have experience working with these communities, then you could, in theory, start to anticipate where you were going to start to see a lot of amplified hardships in families. And as a result of that, I was able to reach out to the agencies that I already knew the families were going to connect directly, starting with our schools, because schools are deemed safe places for all communities in our community, especially those that are faced with disparities.
Thank you, Cynthia. I really appreciate your perspective in your role. And it's great to hear how what you're doing and others are, I'm sure, reflecting on similar approaches, and it validates what we're all facing in our unique communities.
Yes.
Caitlin, here's your turn to talk to us about how you have partnered differently with the community in response to the COVID-19.
Yes, so Kids and Families Together is very fortunate to have a lot of community partnerships that we've built throughout the years of being part of the county. And we're still able to partner with World Central Kitchen and a local restaurant, Rincon Brewery, Ventura, to do meal distribution to our families 6 days a week on site. We have now been there for 9.5 weeks. We're continuing through the end of the month. And it has just been this really beautiful process where our families can come every day and get chef prepared meals. The chef writes a love note to them about the meal. We get the families stay in their cars. We put the meals in the back of the car. They go on their way. It's just nice in a time when you can't see people to even see your families through the car window and just to check in and just to see if they're okay. And then we also, for families that lack transportation or can't get to our site, we do deliveries. And we partnered with the Ventura County Fire Department. They've given us access to their volunteer site and their opportunities. So we've been able to sign up volunteers, deliver those meals to those families. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, Child Family Services will come and do deliveries from our site as well. We've also partnered, we've had the fire department days teaching kids about fire safety during this time, summer activities, what's water safety. We've had Local Love Project come and have produce boxes. We're looking to get essential packs for our families in the next coming weeks, including toilet paper, hand sanitizer, just those basic necessities on what's happening and what's going on right now. And so it's been a really great way for us to continue to love on our families. Mother's Day, we were able to provide flowers. Just make them feel special during a time when everyone feels so disconnected. We're doing something for Father's Day this week. We've also done teen packs. We're looking to do summer activities. And so it's been this really beautiful process during this time where you have the private sector, you have restaurants in the private sector, you have multiple nonprofits, and you have the public sector, including CFS and the fire department, all coming together to make our community a better place and to really serve some of the county's most vulnerable families. So it's been this really beautiful, kind of special time that we've been able to experience in the last 9.5 weeks of our COVID relief process. And we're excited to continue to be serving them in the next coming weeks. As June finishes, we're looking to approach and maybe partner in a different way and reach our families as hopefully things are opening and people are going back to work, but continuing knowing that COVID relief is going to be a process that we'll be continuing on. So it's been really great.
Thank you, Caitlin. Great examples and very creative approaches. Love the Mother's Day example, and thank you. Salida, please talk to us about how you are working differently with the community due to the COVID.
Yes, definitely. First, I just want to say I love hearing what Caitlin and Cynthia are both doing. I have had the privilege of working with David and Kids and Families for a really long time, and I love seeing this beautiful, small team of people just serving our community in a huge way. So, so I'm excited about that. So kudos to both of you. So public health, obviously we are front and center in all of this in great ways, and obviously dealing with a lot in our department. Part of my role, I wear a lot of hats, as Kathleen knows. One of them is doing a lot with disaster response in public health. It's just another hat that I wear. And so as a nurse manager, we've answered calls and things, you know, we've done a lot of things that have been very much outside of what our norm is. But I want to say, as far as public health, we're a safety net for the community, and we have this mission to support environments that protect and promote the health and well-being of everyone in Ventura County. So we're charged with really looking at the needs of our entire community, the cities, the neighborhoods, the families, all the way down to individuals, to identify what gaps exist and then potential ways of filling those gaps. So, you know, obviously working with very vulnerable populations, very vulnerable families pre-COVID, and looking at those gaps just widen and become even more prevalent during this whole pandemic. So we haven't stopped supporting and serving our at-risk and vulnerable families during all of this. And so we're still linking families to resources, linking them to services. And I just want to highlight a few of our programs and just some of the things that we've done in our department to continue serving families. California Children's Services, we serve youth that have debilitating chronic terminal conditions, diseases, illnesses, and we are still providing case management and care coordination for that medically fragile population. We're doing it mostly via phone, as everybody else is. And our medical therapy program, which provides occupational and physical therapy to that population, they're offering telehealth, and that's to our most critical children needing that type of service. And I'm so proud, this happens to be one of my teams, and I'm so proud of them because they've stepped up and shown up in a very real way, knowing how fragile this population is. We also still have our Healthcare for All program. They're completely mobile, and they've been providing Medi-Cal application and assistance online and by phone. And they've been doing that really since the beginning. They got up and running quickly. And obviously our Medi-Cal, our need for Medi-Cal application assistance has gone up significantly with people being out of work. We also have our chronic disease prevention program that typically does things in person. They do classes and things like that. They've converted all of their in-person classes to text and phone conferencing to still offer information and education. Our WIC program, still accepting new applicants. They can provide almost all of their services by phone. They're still offering food benefits, nutrition education and counseling, and even breastfeeding support by phone, which is challenging. They're actually working on doing a Zoom support group here soon. The WIC staff are they're reaching out to all of their participants that maybe have missed appointments to make sure that they know that services are still available. And we're really doing that across the board. And so next month, as I mentioned, WIC's going to begin offering a virtual breastfeeding support group through GoToMeeting. And they're hoping to offer this to any woman in the community, knowing that those supports that were in existence before maybe don't exist quite the same way. So we're looking at doing that as well. And then our community health nursing program, which is a home visitation program, they're still checking in with those at-risk families, providing support and education through phone and video chat as well. During all of this, so we've been asked to redeploy our staff to help with the COVID response, as you can imagine, and I'm sure as many of you have seen, in all the different ways that we are supporting our community during all of this. So we've been staffing hotlines to answer questions from the public, translating educational documents into other languages, assisting with COVID testing, actually doing swabbing at some of the drive-through sites, data entry, contact tracing, so all of that type of work is going on in addition to still doing the work that we're normally called to do. And we aren't the only county department to do this. All of our county departments, behavioral health, throughout the county, they have been redeployed to assist in this COVID response. And so we're working really collaboratively with each other within the county, as well as across with our community partners, and really leaning on programs like Kids and Families Together to refer some of our families to. So we're really looking at how do we, I think during all of this, our partnerships across sectors, across departments, across programs has only been strengthened in this time that we've been apart. And I think we've really found some new and creative ways to continue serving our community.
Thank you, Salida. Again, I'm hearing the themes from all of you that you are uniquely positioned to do what you do in your role in your job, your profession, but the unifying link is the Child Abuse Prevention Council, and that is how you're coming together, not just today, but when you go back out to work is another way of using the CAPC as that forum to make sure that the prevention agenda is up in front, but you're also exchanging creative ways of how you are keeping that prevention effort in front of the radar. So we're going to have our final question, and I'm going to start off with you, Caitlin. And I know that you've talked about your role in the CAPC, and but also what you do uniquely in your role at Kids and Families. Can you please close up our session with you on what's one thing you feel is needed to strengthen families and promote wellness in your community?
Great. So I feel that the one thing to strengthen families and promote wellness is creating those really healthy attachments and bonds within families, and addressing trauma within families. And now even more than ever, you know, what are those positive racial identities, and how do you create just those healthy families that really can create children that thrive in our community? And so that's the one thing I would think would be needed to strengthen.
Thank you, Caitlin. I'm going to move to Cynthia and have her share what is the one thing you feel is needed to strengthen families and promote wellness in your community.
For me personally, looking at things from an equity lens, an ethnic lens, is understanding the family's culture and their value system. Building relationships is one thing, but also understanding the structure and the family culture is instrumental to the success of the family moving forward, whether it be health related, whether it be mental health, or even obtaining services. As a Latina myself, and having gone through some used to the services in the county when I was younger, there was a misinterpretation of what the dynamics were in my home when I was younger, and resulted in child protective services being called to my family. And the way it was handled actually created a lot more strife and stress in my household, to the point that it created a divide between the children and the parents. If things were handled differently culturally, I believe that that outcome would have been a lot different than what it ended up being. So understanding the cultural needs of a family, understanding their value systems, and knowing how to communicate with the family would promote the wellness of the family a lot in a more positive light, and the families would be more willing to work with agents in the community, knowing that their value systems are respected.
Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Very timely comment. I want to just make sure that Lita here, that if anything is sparking in the audience in your thoughts and questions, we encourage you to use the chat box to put that question in here. And so I see here we have Debbie Comstock who is asked a question, but before we do, I'm going to have Salita answer the question, and then we'll close with the questions that are in the chat box. Salita, I look forward to hearing your perspective.
Probably pretty simple. I feel, and I think that it's, I feel that in order to really strengthen families in our community, we have got to partner with our parents, all of our parents. We have to get on their level with them, a little bit to what Cynthia was talking about, really understanding those family dynamics, really understanding parents. And we have to show them as agencies, as organizations, as a CAPC, that we're on their side, because we want them to be successful. And we have to provide consistent, relevant support to our parents in our community. In order for their children to feel safe and nurtured, our parents have to feel safe and nurtured. And so I think we have to start with those parents. And I'm so excited at how our parent leadership program is growing and developing in this county. I have waited a long time to see this, and it's popped up here and there over the years. And we have the most amazing parent leaders that are emerging, and I think that we're going to continue to see more of that. And that's what we need. We need partnerships with our parents in order to empower them and strengthen them so that they can, they can be that safe place for their kids, and their kids can be nurtured, and we can stop trauma.
Thank you very much, Salida. And so to get to Debbie Comstock's question, and I'm going to go back up here and find it. Where did it go? What is the best way to work on cultural humility? And Cynthia, can you please start off with that?
Absolutely. Well, cultural humility obviously starts with acknowledging that you have some biases, but we start by looking at our own culture and understanding our own culture. Many times when an individual isn't even aware of their own culture, you're not aware of your biases. So once that is something that you're able to do, then the other thing you want to do is acknowledge that there are different cultures around you, and be aware of what you know about each culture. And if you don't know about those cultural perspectives, try educating yourself in terms of reading upon the culture itself. Obviously, there's a lot of training, and depending on the agency that you're part of, this is something you might want to reach out to if you have an inclusion or diversity officer in your agency or in your county. If you work for the county departments, like for myself as the equity service manager, my role is to provide this training for our clinicians in our department. But it's also for you to be aware of how you're going to use that knowledge to help enhance the services that you're delivering to those that you're serving, whether they be students, whether they be families, whether it be a client, whether it be in probation. Your cultural biases play a huge role on how you're going to approach a person. And what is helpful is once you're aware of your biases, you're more likely to be sensitive to those individuals that you're serving, and not intentionally say or do something that might bring harm to the situation and the outcome not be what you're looking for. And I'm happy to connect with you later if you want to talk about that further.
Thank you, Cynthia. It's really helpful to hear from your perspective on that. And Caitlin, any comment on that question?
I think Cynthia said it perfect, and she said it so eloquently, and so thank you for that.
Okay, same with you, Salida.
Yes, Cynthia could not have said that any better. She's definitely the experts on that, and thank you.
I'm just very grateful that Cynthia was able to join us. You kind of came on at the last minute to join this group, and we so appreciate you making the time to bring your perspective to us. So,
absolutely, and thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say goodbye to our panel. And Salida, any parting thoughts?
No, I want to thank all of the participants that are on here that are so dedicated and focused on strengthening families in our community. Again, a big passion of mine, and I'm so happy to see the work that we're not only doing here in Ventura County, but statewide, especially with our coastal tri-counties partners. We've always had a strong partnership, and we are really creating something amazing in our coastal tri-counties that I know will spread. So I just want to thank everybody for joining. Thank Caitlin and Cynthia for the wonderful work that you ladies are doing. It's an honor to be sitting on a panel with you, and also thank you to Lisa. It was good to see you. I so appreciate all of you and the work that you do.
And Caitlin, parting thoughts?
Yes, so as someone who is development and fundraising and out in the community a lot, it is really neat to get to see kind of the other side and to partner with these agencies. And I've learned so much today, and this is just a great group. So thank you for having me and hosting us. And yeah, I just appreciate it.
And Cynthia?
On the same lines, just thank you for the opportunity to share what we're doing in the county to support our families and those that are in need of services across the board. I just want to say thank you for everyone that asked questions, and especially right now during the times that we're living in, and the tragic events that have taken place in our country. I just want to thank everybody for just being mindful and proactive and serving the community in a way that's respectful. Thank you.
And thank you. So I'm going to say goodbye to our panel. They're not going away, but they're going to turn their cameras off, and we're going to put my camera on and have Lori Clark join us as we reflect on what it is that we have been learning. So you have the stage.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to all of the panelists, the parent partner panel and the provider panel. Each one of you were so passionate and just so able to clearly represent the work that you're doing on behalf of all of us. So very appreciative of that. I wanted to share briefly that a few months ago in March, when the COVID-19 first began, we found a need to bring folks together for the kind of dialogue that you've enjoyed today. So we conducted a virtual town hall for CAPCs and their partners across the state. And the upshot of that, when you take all of those comments together, was to really frame child abuse prevention councils and all the partners that we've heard from today that have a part in that work as providers of hope. We borrowed that term from Dr. Perry, who's done a lot of work with trauma and resiliency, and it seems to fit because it seems to me if there is a common theme across everything that we've heard, it's building protective factors, it's being there in times of need, but it's really turning the corner to promoting resilience and well-being and sparking that kind of hope. So I loved hearing from Selena that it's important to have consistent and relevant support. And the fact that we've tied that together to a very challenging time for many reasons right now. And I know that question was on the mind of many child and youth and family and community serving organizations. What do we do? Do we close our doors and wait until this is over? And I think the resounding answer, resonating and ringing throughout the state has been no. We are embedded in the community, we're embedded with families, and now more than ever is the time to inspire that hope, to be a catalyst, a convener, a coordinator, and to bring that together. I also appreciated hearing from the panel about being proactive in helping to shape identity, in particular racial identity, and to do that through an equity lens. And I think I'll just wrap up by saying that another factor that I think can unify all of the voices that we've heard today is for each of us to commit to doing more, to normalizing our own trauma histories and being willing to bring that history in an appropriate and relevant way into the work and into the partnerships that we do. So it doesn't become an us and them or a better or worse, but rather we learn to talk about areas in our own experience where we have overcome, where we've learned to be resilient, where we have enjoyed some well-being in spite of, in a way that helps us talk about that and share perspectives openly, knowing that trauma is widespread and pervasive and that it's something that everyone can relate to. But to do that in service of inspiring hope, I think is one additional way of having those roles come into play. You are muted, Lisa.
Thank you, Lori. As we part ways, I will close out our time together by sharing what we have done with our learning community in the past and encourage how we stay together after the summer comes, and we are taking our time off to be able to stay connected through the summer and going into the new year. So as we move to the next slide, I would like to share with everybody that the Southern California Learning Community has accomplished 4 years of learning communities that we're very proud of. At the same time, we're wanting to let you know that year one, we spent time getting this launched, and that these are all available on YouTube through that medium to see these learning communities that we had produced in the prior years. So we really encourage you to check out the Magnolia Community Initiative panel. That was our final learning community in year one. That was a very inspiring time we spent together. We go to the next slide. We can let you know that with year two, we spent some time. Can we go there? Yeah, year two, there we go. We spent time achieving impact through evaluation and data for family strengthening programs. We learned way more about data than I ever anticipated learning, as well as others. It really launched my curiosity to be more engaged with data and to understand how to use it for talking with our community about our impact. Next slide. I want to share a quote that when after year two, one of our participants from Riverside County shared with me personally that he had an epiphany on how to manage and utilize our family resource centered data. By learning with my peers during this series approach, my breakthrough came to me in the third learning community convening. I now have the knowledge and the confidence to lead and develop our family resource centered data management systems. So we got very excited about data, and whoever thought that that would ever happen. And next slide is our learning year together on year three, and we've highlighted our Riverside County parent partners as well as our Santa Barbara County parent partners, and explored and continued to learn how aligned we are in our work across the county borders in our Southern California region, but also throughout the state and through this nation. And the next slide. So I want to just share with you that as July 1st, 2020, just around the corner, that Strategies 2.0 will become Strategies TA. So our work with the Office of Child Abuse Prevention, OCAP, will focus on technical assistance to counties undertaking collaborative child abuse prevention planning. So it's a new era and a new day, and please stay tuned about how this will evolve in the coming year. And the next slide. The trainings will continue, but they will continue through the Chadwick Center at Rady's Children's Hospital in San Diego. We're very excited about this new approach. Stay tuned. You're going to have trainings offered through the state as well as in your backyards if as needed. So stay tuned to hear from Rady's Children's Hospital in San Diego. Next slide. And in closing, a recording of today's convening will be available and will be sent out to you. There are some folks who register and they weren't able to join the call this hour, but they can watch this later at your convenience. And the link is to the Strategies 2.0 YouTube channel. And the next slide. Thank you. So I'm going to close with asking you to please join me in thanking all of our participants today, but as well as the audience, and joining me in this journey. And I had 20 years of doing this work, and I'm going to stay committed to doing it for who knows how much longer. But I want to let you know that your evaluations that you participate on today are very important to informing us on how to continue this exchange of information and this building of relationships. So I appreciate everyone's time today, and I'm just going to sign off and have a great rest of the week.